Hi, my name is Shola Rogers, and I wanted to talk to you today about my experience in the organizational leadership program. I want to talk about some of the knowledge that I picked up while going through my applied major courses and tell you what I plan on doing with the leadership skills that I've learned after this journey. So, very excited. Let's get started. Before I started the organizational leadership program, my skills, I believe, were at a beginner's level. I was observant of leadership in my organization and understood their forms of leadership, but not having names of theories to connect it to. It just kind of felt like this is this person's individual style of leadership. It belongs to this person, and I don't know, what I can take from that. So. I was also very timid when it came to even being in a leadership position at times. I wasn't in an official title, but I did delegate tasks every now and again, and I would have rather not have done that. I wasn't comfortable delegating tasks to other people at all, and would often apologize for it, even though it was something that they were supposed to be doing. But I mainly, I went out of my way then to work alone. So after working in the applied major course, I really learned to open up and take on some of those leadership roles because maybe the way that I understood leadership to be was a bit more fussy than it actually turned out to be. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk to you now about the specific things I learned in each of my major courses and go on to let you know what kind of goals I've set for myself for the future. So one of the first courses that we had was an introduction to leadership theories. I learned guidelines on what theories work best in certain situations and how leadership practices influence members of the organization. And this is where I really kind of took observing those previous experience from leaders and finding names and putting them into theories and models and being able to recognize good quality leadership skills and effective leadership skills leading to success and not so effective leadership skills that led to conflict and not meeting goals. So I was really able to kind of start distinguishing between those two and at least putting names to those things and understanding the research that had been done by so many sociologists, psychologists, and so forth, organizational behavioralists. So that was really important to me. I also read about how to understand cultural diversity in the workplace. This is big just because we're in an environment where everybody's different and we have different religions, different races, different cultural backgrounds. And so it's important to be able to respect everybody in the workplace and just in life in general. So I really appreciated reading up on that and learning different ways to approach conflict in situations from those angles. The end of the course assignment prompted me to create my own leadership strategy. This exercise allowed me to take some of the theories that I had learned in that first course and really put it to what I want my leadership to look like. And although some of it might have shifted as the course went on and I got to know a little bit more about leadership roles, I would say that it was a pretty good base for my goals in leadership and what I want to be able to do in the future. The data-driven decision-making courses showed me how to collect and manage and present data while also providing the pros and cons of making decisions based on data. My first course focused on implementing changes in an organization and creating metrics to measure those changes. This exercise was extremely helpful because before I did not know that there was metrics that you could use to assess effectiveness besides monetary metrics. This dove in more into processing, more to measuring processes and making sure that the plans that you have set will give you the outcomes that you're looking for. And so that was very helpful for me. The assignment tasked me with working out each detail of change I was going to implement. It was a great overview to see what roles will go to what task and how those tasks will work together to complete the overall goal. This was my first experience really understanding the leadership responsibilities of implementing change and working through organizational processes. My observations were limited to things I can see mostly, so this assignment really propelled me to understand what happens behind the scenes. I've worked in many organizations where I've not always agreed with the way certain tasks and changes have been laid out. Unfortunately, because my view is often one-sided, I limited my understanding of how my tasks worked with other tasks in the organization, and how those tasks come together again to complete the goal. So just because something changed my end, and it didn't seem to make sense to me. It made sense when you put together the overall puzzle. And that's what I was able to see. And I felt that was a really great experience, and a really great view of what leadership responsibilities really are. The second course showed me how to collect and manage data. The assignment gave us a limited amount of data over a 6-year period. I was tasked with organizing this data and reporting trends and profits. I have not ever been comfortable in Excel. So the fact that we had to really take that data and organize it and structure it in a way to be able to produce readable data was definitely a process. I appreciate my professor for putting up YouTube videos of how to use pivot tables in Excel. That allowed me to really just lay out all of my information in a organized manner so that I wasn't so overwhelmed with the numbers in front of me, and that I was able to create questions for my data analysis report so that I could present the data and the numbers and what they meant and different trends and different profits throughout the years of that retail organization. It actually turned out to be one of my favorite courses and one of my favorite assignments. So I really enjoyed that experience. Behavior ethics and leadership taught me strategies to use when resolving ethical issues and making ethical decisions. I was asked to examine my own values and compare them to difficult situations in the workplace. This examination caused me to look at my own understanding of morals and values as it pertains to an organization. My assignment for this course focused on ethical behavior stemming from negligence in the Ford Pinto case and Carlos Ghosn's transformation at Nissan. Ghosn's takeover at Nissan really stuck with me because of the way he was able to work through the cultural business differences while updating their business practices and aiding their organization and making a complete turnaround. Going back to the first course that we had, Issues in Organizational Leadership and learning about cultural diversity in the workplace, and then jumping back over to Carlos Ghosn, it was really a cool experience to see how he was able to communicate with Nissan employees, going over a whole language barrier, but still being effective in his communication, transparent in his communication, and really allowing himself to understand their business cultures, what was working and what wasn't working, and really implementing those changes for the better without alienating the employees of Nissan. It was really cool to work through that process, to look at the skills that he used, the characteristics that he found leadership characteristics that he found useful to use at those times, or at that time. And so that was definitely something that I incorporated in my goals, because I really thought that was a great leadership model for us to study and look into. Leadership theory courses focused on providing me with the principles of management I could use to create, implement, and maintain organizational processes and procedures. I learned how to look at an organization in depth and analyze their strengths and weaknesses. This was put into practice in my first assignment when I was asked to create a SWOT analysis for a real organization. I chose Chipotle Mexican Grill Incorporated. And I discovered that that was way more to Chipotle than I ever thought, because I had never been asked to think about it. It definitely, doing a SWOT analysis allows you to examine the inner workings of an organization and how they can be affected internally and externally. After doing the SWOT analysis project and the strategic case analysis that comes later in my Capstone course, I look at organizations so much differently, especially if I ever choose to leave my current organization and go to a prospective one. I feel like doing my own small SWOT analysis would be great, just because I want to be able to measure their strategies that they use to make themselves, sustain themselves as a successful organization. That's really important to get a full view on. And I really appreciated having an assignment like that. So it definitely, sorry, I got held up. It definitely gave me a great perspective from a leadership's role, and just overall how an organization should run effectively, successfully, and so on. The second assignment required me to follow through with the recommendations I had provided for the previous course SWOT analysis. So I took the SWOT that I did for Chipotle, and one of my recommendations was food storage and quality. And so I was then tasked for the second course to go ahead and make a process improvement plan for those recommendations that I had put on the table for them. I was kind of worried about this assignment because I had not really considered how those processes would go when I made those recommendations. So there definitely was a mistake on my part that I will never make again. I'll definitely make sure that when you're making recommendations, you make sure that you follow through to know that that's going to be successful for that organization. You don't want to tell them that this is something that they should do and then it not work in their favor, especially if you're working for the organization. So that was really my mind opening for me to be able to see. But I definitely was able to carry out that process. And it just, again, kind of reaffirmed to me that there is a whole outer layer that I didn't really see of leadership. And there's so many pieces and aspects of creating processes and looking through or analyzing your organization, creating process to improve on the the results that you got from your data, and then going in and really implementing those changes. So yeah, I definitely learned about follow through with the leadership theory courses. It was very helpful. Leading change allowed me to take the strategies I had been shown to implement change and put it into practice. After this course, I was able to recognize factors that can cause an impact on change. I also learned how to de-escalate the conflict and difficulties that may come from members of an organization during the change implementation. My assignment for this course was to give a step-by-step view of the beginning and ends of implementing change. As someone who has gone through change outside of the leadership role, I was unaware of how many factors and people are considered when making these changes. Changes don't happen overnight, and I learned that making plans for change does not happen overnight either. It is a long haul, a lot of detail, and really just taking in your organization as a whole, which is way more than what I expected it to be. The assignment helped me understand how often processes are reassessed, and it caused me to go over my previous plans several times over to make sure my actual outcomes would match the outcome that I planned for. This meant working through implementation and really making sure details were considered and covered. I also liked having to pick out a team. I was able to select positions that would be best for this process and delegate tasks to them to complete our goal. Having the ability to work through all of this on paper for an assignment boosted my confidence in handling real world situations. And after finishing that assignment, I really felt like I had been through a full implementation process from start to finish as a leader, leading it and making sure that it runs successfully. That definitely gave me a lot of confidence to be able to do something like that in the real world on my own. My capstone courses had allowed me to take all of the leadership concepts I had learned and examine them in everyday practices. I was asked to interview 2 amazing leaders in an organization about leadership realities. I was able to understand the perspective of those leaders while applying the knowledge I had learned over my previous courses to analyze their experiences and tendencies. This was an insightful experience because it allowed me to understand how important understanding roles in leadership are. It's very easy, again, to be dismissive of leadership just being, I say this and I'm telling you to do that. But there's so much more involved into the leadership role than just delegation. There's a ton of planning, looking over detail, making sure that the decisions that you will impact your employees and followers successfully and effectively, so that they don't lose trust in you. Because once that's lost, it's going to take a lot to get that back, or to even still stay in your organization. It might be lost forever. So it was very important to me. My second assignment focused on me putting all of my knowledge towards developing a more detailed than the previous SWOT analysis for an organization. At first, I thought the assignment would present itself as a challenge because of the amount of detail I needed to provide. But unlike the knowledge I had from the previous SWOT analysis, I was well equipped with information needed to provide insightful information. There, I chose Southwest Airlines for my detailed strategic case analysis for the Capstone 2 course. And I was a little intimidated by the assignment, but definitely was able to find more than enough information on Southwest, and using the knowledge that I had gathered from all of the applied major coursework to be able to fit what was being asked of me into the proper areas that it should be. So with external factors, I was able to take issues relating to customer service and putting that in their sociological, I believe, environments, taking plane crashes and putting that into sociological threats, taking environmental concerns as far as climate change and fossil fuels, and putting that into environmental issues, federal flight regulations, into political and legal issues. I mean, it allows you to be able to match up threats and strengths of the organization and put them in the proper areas for your strategic case analysis, so that it reads smoothly and you're able to make an effective report to bring success to your organization. So that was it took a lot, but it was a good opportunity and a really good experience. As of now, I feel much more comfortable leading in my organization. I understand how to navigate through different situations, and I feel comfortable with change and being able to guide others through change while being supportive of their concerns and their questions. While I was taking my applied major courses, I moved to a new position in my organization. This position required more face time with individuals as I was guiding them through software implementations and their departments, the schools, doing something so hands-on, and walking other staff members through somewhat significant changes in their process is a big job, which meant it was going to be more important for me to feel comfortable in the position. Part of my hesitancy towards being a leader was my lack of confidence. I was asked to work on several assignments and chose situations that mirrored what I was currently working on in my organization. And really working through these assignments on my own, on paper, and incorporating that information into and from my organization, and what I was learning in my courses boosted my confidence extremely. In some cases, I was able to talk to leadership in my organization about the ideas that I'd come from the assignments that I had worked on. And some of the validation that I received from leadership, as well as my grades, were a huge boost to my confidence and allowed me to feel secure in my position and levels of knowledge. I'm able to work with other employees in my workplace in a variety of situations. I've taken more of a situational approach because that's what my job calls for. In these situations, I take the time to understand the staff that I'm working with and build processes that fit their needs and skill level. I provide the appropriate amount of appropriate amount of support while making sure the employees have the ability to master their given task. Excuse me. I hope to take on more of a leadership role at work, possibly as a project manager. I realize I like creating and organizing tasks and objectives during my assignments in the applied major courses. In order to accomplish this, I will need to work on my planning skills, making sure I have assessed possible outcomes and planning for them. And I'll also need to get better with time management. At times, it's easy for me to get consumed over the future aspects of a project than the smaller parts in between. So I need to make sure I can focus on the here and now while still being able to maintain a projection of what's ahead. Further development of these skills will allow me to guide a team towards accomplishing the goals of our organization. And so that is my presentation for my time in the organizational leadership program. It's been a wonderful experience. I am really glad that I made it through, and I am so thankful for all of my professors, their patience, their support, and their sharing their extensive amount of knowledge with me during my time here. So thank you.